primarily what I do it for is for relationships and for future
Okay.
relationships, so people can have better future relationships, and be able to receive and be able to get what it is that they feel they need from the other
Right.
person. When we talk
Okay.
about getting what you need from the other person, it's really not about talking or about saying, this is what I need to feel this certain way. It's really about being able to be at one and comfortable in your own self, and being able to articulate in a certain type of way, but not in a way that is repelling, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Because a lot of times, like the like energy repels.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
The like
even though
energy.
like attracts like, it's
Yeah.
sometimes when you're looking at things like masculine and feminine, the like energy is going to repel.
Yeah. It's like the ends of a magnet.
Yeah.
Um, so magnets will come together or they'll repel each other. It's really fascinating. The idea that people could repel each other even though they're very attracted to each other just through how they communicate or how they're receiving each other.
Yeah, so it's primarily based on the energy. It's less about things like attachment theory, and even though that's a big part of it, but a lot to do with things like um where you're where are you living in your energy? What's happening for you? So if you're like the feminine energy, if we aren't open and we are closed off in certain areas of ourselves,
Mhm.
then we aren't going to be able to hold that. The same goes for the masculine. If they are, if there's certain areas that are closed off that they don't feel that are open, or there's certain areas that can't be held as well.
Do you feel unnoticed or unloved in your relationships or in life in general? Would you like to warm up your life with some talk on the energetics of receiving love? My guest in this episode is Adriane Jude, a relationship strategist known for seeing and explaining patterns others miss, revealing what's actually happening beneath the surface. Her work focuses on the dynamics shaping how people think, how they connect, and how they experience life, making the invisible clear and immediately understandable for her clients. Hello and welcome to Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith, your guide to living a soul-powered life. You are invited to my Facebook group, Soul Powered Living, so we can continue discussions started on podcasts and any other questions you may have. So welcome, Adriane. I am so happy to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Happy to
you
be here.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I really have been fascinated with, you call yourself a relationship strategist, but you really are looking at combining two things. What are those two things that you're combining?
Well,
What,
essentially what I'm combining is my
yeah,
ability to be intuitive as well as my ability to analyze. So I'm combining those two things together. So it's sort of like a diagnostic. The work that I do is very diagnostic.
right.
And then there's also the portion of it that's sort of more of a, I don't want to say correction, but it's more of a what we're looking at, where we feel like, maybe if you want to call it blocks, but really what it is um, where those patterns are sort of where those patterns need to be interrupted, excuse me,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
how to move forward
yeah,
from that.
exactly. Perfect. How did you get into this particular? It sounds like in our previous conversations, you were very analytical, and it's usually hard to convince an analytical person there is an intuitive side to this. How did you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of my life I was very analytical, but I think the reason why was because there was a lot of me that was living up here, which mostly where our feminine energy lives is up here in our heads, in the head, the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, the throat chakra. And because of that, we're not, since we live sort of in that spiritual, intuitive realm, we don't necessarily always go down to the bottom if there are certain things in our lives that maybe happened in the past, or things that we don't know about that we're not looking at. Um, and so we live up here. So sometimes what happens is, instead of us being able to live within our,
Mhm.
you know, our sacral chakra, which is sort of where the feminine energy comes from, the intuitive, the the emotions, those types of things, the go with the flow, if we're not living there, if we don't feel like we are open to being or feeling ourselves internally there,
Mhm.
um, for whatever reason, then it's possible that we are stuck up inside of our minds. We think a lot, we analyze a lot, we go over and over. There's a lot of rumination there. Sometimes we talk a lot, and there's not a lot of the listening and the receiving that sort of within a relationship in the
Yeah.
feminine energy would like to be.
I
And so
can
whereas
see
there's
that.
not a lot of like
Yeah.
not getting out of, but there's not a lot of like explaining yourself out of, or um being able to talk and continue to talk to get what you need.
Absolutely. I've seen plenty of relationships where the woman is up here and the man wants to relate to the feminine and feels kind of like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. I'm out of here.
Right. Right, because he lives down in he lives, root chakra and sacral and solar plexus chakra. And sometimes what happens is what we do is we get stuck inside that solar plexus chakra to overcompensate for what we're not feeling emotionally. This is at least what I've noticed in the clients that I've worked with and in myself as well, where you feel like there's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of need for control. And while that's not necessarily I would say a regulated masculine energy, but it is sort of like what happens when we try to overcompensate, when we try to say, try to protect ourselves and control the other person, or we're
Mhm.
live like sort of in this fear of
Yeah.
what's going to happen next, what
Yeah.
ifs.
I know. I know. So, how did you get into this?
Well, I sort of went on my own journey.
Okay.
Like I said, there was a lot of me where I was having a lot of issues in my own relationships and in my own
Mhm.
life, and I wasn't understanding that it was me and not the other person.
Oh,
And there finally got to the place where I realized that I was the common denominator. It wasn't always the other person or something that was going on with the other person, but I didn't know how to get out
yeah.
of that. It was just
Okay.
a continuous
Yeah.
loop, and I needed to be able to do that. And I tried other modalities and traditional ways of doing it, and nothing really worked for me.
Okay.
Um, I
Okay.
did then get into things like NLP and hypnotherapy and things
Okay.
like that. Timeline therapy. Well, we call it time techniques and what I'm certified in, but
Mhm.
it's essentially the same thing. And because of that, I was able to work out what was happening.
Yeah.
But other than that, when I went on my own spiritual journey by myself and the things that I did, I realized that I had this ability to tap into once I was sort of aligned within my own body, I had this ability to tap into and really see the patterns that people were living through and
Wow.
understanding and seeing what other,
Mm.
when they would come to me and talk to me, we'd have a conversation, I would understand what was going on with the other person or what was going on
Yeah.
with them.
Wow.
Intuitively, I could feel it.
That's
Um,
a
and then I'd get like sort of an image,
right.
and I didn't
That's
know
a
really where to
powerful.
go with that. What's that?
Yeah. That's a powerful intuitive skill you have there.
Yeah, I didn't really know where to go with that.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah.
but then I realized, the more that I did it and the more that it's sort of like it's not necessarily a learned skill, but it was something that I had to build up over time only because I needed to gain that confidence in it.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes time. It really does to trust our intuition and act on it. And it sounds like you're doing fantastic work.
Mm.
Describe what an experience a client's found you. They're calling you. What are some of the problems statistically? What's the most prominent issue people are calling you for, and what do you do for them?
Well, I'll give you a couple of examples.
Yeah.
I've done this primarily for relationships, for future relationships. It could be somebody who's in the midst of a relationship or is talking to somebody or is, dating somebody. That could work as well. It works for all kinds of different things, but I have also worked with somebody who was experiencing a health problem as well.
Okay.
So it was sort of, it can go any direction, but primarily what I do this for is for relationships because that's what I went through, and that's the sort
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
my expertise is because of my own experiences. Um, but the one person that I was doing it for the health for was essentially I could see what was happening with them because I understood and saw as she was talking to me, I understood and saw what was going on. It felt
Mhm.
like there was the flow was cut off. It
Oh,
was like
okay.
uh like a geyser, I guess you could say, and I felt like
Okay.
the flow was cut off, and I understood what was actually happening is that there was this stress factor that was cutting everything off, and then it was making her feel like, and she had been to the doctor and I couldn't explain any of those things, but that's just one aspect of it that I have the ability to do it for, but that's not primarily what I do it for. Primarily what I do it for is for relationships and for future
Okay.
relationships so people can have better future relationships, and be able to receive and be able to get what it is that they feel they need from the other
Right.
person. when we talk
Okay.
about getting what you need from the
Yeah.
other person, it's really not about talking or about saying this is what I need to feel the certain way. It's really about being able to be at one and comfortable in your own self and being able to articulate in a certain type of way, but not in a way that is repelling, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Because a lot of times, like the like energy repels.
Yeah, yeah,
It
the like,
even though like attracts like, it's
yeah,
sometimes when you're looking at things like masculine and feminine, the like energy is going to repel.
yeah. It's like the ends of a magnet.
Yeah.
Um, so magnets will come together or they'll repel each other. It's really fascinating, the idea that people could repel each other even though they're very attracted to each other just through how they communicate or how they're receiving each other.
Yeah, so it's primarily based on the energy. It's less about things like attachment theory, and even though that's a big part of it, but a lot to do with things like um where you're what where are you living in your energy? What's happening for you? So if you're like the feminine energy, if we aren't open and we are closed off in certain areas of ourselves,
Mhm.
then we aren't going to be able to hold that. The same goes for the masculine. If they are, if there's certain areas that are closed off that they don't feel that are open, or there's certain areas that can't be held as well. If that makes sense.
Right. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Um, Give us some examples. Uh,
Uh,
Closed off woman in a closed off manner.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I had one client who came to me and didn't understand why they felt like they're the ones who were always being left. They're the ones who never really had this the sustainable relationship. Sorry, that's what I was going to say. And she basically felt like I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. And there's this person that I like and I don't know how to make sure that I get sort of not get
Yeah.
but make sure that I feel that I'm in the right place for this to move forward. And
Okay.
I could tell as we were talking, I could tell that what happened. I could see first. I felt that there was a block, and then
Mhm.
I could tell it wasn't necessarily a block, but it was sort of an energetic, um, like I guess you could say an energetic ball or sort of like a conglomeration. That's what it feels like to me.
What
And
was in this conglomeration? Is it mostly, and you're talking energy, right?
yeah,
You're just
yeah,
talking,
absolutely. So
yeah,
within me, it's sort of like the area. It sort of feels like
yeah,
that internally, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So, and then what happened was and then I got the image of what it looked like, and what it was there was like this, a medieval shield between her solar plexus and her sacral chakra,
Oh, wow.
and essentially that was what was blocking and shielding it and protecting it. And if we don't have the ability to, and that, so that flow wasn't there. So she was living a lot inside of her solar plexus chakra,
Oh
and
my
then up
goodness.
here as well, a
You
lot of
said
time.
a medieval shield.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes it's metaphoric. So it could
Okay.
just mean that it could have been past life, but not necessarily. It could have been,
Okay.
just that it was so intricate and, uh, detailed, and the reasoning behind it.
Behind it.
There's a lot, because it's metaphoric, we have to dig into that even deeper as to what that
Okay.
means.
It's
Um,
fascinating. Yeah.
and but it shows me where to go and what areas need to sort of be dug into. And that's the whole point, is getting to the root of the cause, so that there's this correction, so that there's this flow, there's this ability
Beautiful.
um to move forward. And a lot of times what happens is sometimes those are things that people don't see. These aren't things that are like apparent,
No, there's
especially
just,
when
yeah, yeah. It's the
even if
subtle
you've done a lot
energy.
of work,
Yeah.
even if you've,
Yeah.
gone to therapy, or if you've done work with coaching, or you've done the spiritual work, sometimes there's something still there and we don't know what it is.
And you can find it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I can totally relate to that. It's like so many, the symbolism from the soul is very powerful and very revealing. Um, so you talked about a woman came to you who was probably single, had a series of breakups, and she wanted to
Yeah.
prepare herself to. She really did want a relationship. She didn't throw up her arms and say never again. She wanted to be in
Right.
a relationship.
Absolutely. I can give you another example of somebody that I worked with, and she just trying to remember, but she had done a lot of her own spiritual work. She had
Mhm.
already done all of the, like, past life childhood work.
Mhm.
She had done all of this work in a lot of inner work, but there was still something there, an internal no that was happening, an
Oh,
internal saying, and she wasn't open to this idea of talking to people or meeting people or having those conversations. Because everything starts sort of with a
yeah.
conversation. She wasn't really open to that. And so what we did was we went back through and we integrated all of those parts. And that's a lot of the work that I do is an integration, not just the analysis and the intuitive sides of ourselves, which is sort of
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
correlates to masculine and feminine, but it's about integrating all of those experiences so that we can move forward and we have that flow within us because there's something there that's sort of stopping us from moving that needle, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that. I was just in a class, we were talking about integration for when you're recovering from grief. But talk to me about integration. What would you, how would you help somebody integrate? They have no clue what's going on, but I have to integrate it. What is that?
Right, right, absolutely. So, well, to me, what integration is making sure that what we know or what we've experienced or what we know is no longer inhibiting us from
Mhm,
processing or inhibiting us from moving and living within the body. That's
mhm.
what integration is to me.
Okay.
And so essentially, we take these kind of experiences and we look at them and we have the ability to sort of retell the stories. Um, And by doing so and by looking at those, we can sort of correlate what all of those things are together, and we can then move that needle forward, if that makes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like it takes time to do this. How long do you work with the client? I don't mean hours and hours, but
Sure.
can you do it in one session or do you?
Yeah, so essentially I can do the diagnostic portion in one session. I mean, it just takes one conversation if we talk about one thing. Then we can move on to doing the other work,
Mhm,
where we pinpoint all of the things that we want to work on
mhm.
together.
Perfect. And great. So if somebody were to call you, you would set them up for a series of sessions with you.
Right, so we would just do the one session, see what it's
Mm,
like to work together. If this is something they want to
okay.
continue with, and I would offer that as well.
Okay. Beautiful. I think that's really exciting. That's why I was excited to have you talk to on this show and and we're going to tell you how to get a hold of Adrian is to tell people how these things can work. It seems it's, sometimes it's just considered energy work is considered, oh, that's woo woo and it's not going to make a difference. But I see it making a huge difference in people's lives. So you could find Adrian at her email is Adrian Magidson. Am I saying it right? Magidson
Yeah,
at
maggots.
gmail.com. And you can find her on social media at Adriane.Jude. And so please look for her, message her. Adrian Magazine. Is there a D in there? No, it's Magidson.
Magidson.
Yeah, at gmail.com. And I'm going to have that on the show notes. But in any event, um, what is the most common blocks that you find in people? Are they from past lives? Are they from early childhood woundings? Are they from, I just went through a lot of bad relationships and now I have a problem?
Yes, I think it's all of the above. Sometimes it's starts as, well, this is what's really happening with me, but a lot of times it's different for everybody else. It's different for different people. But what happens is, what I find the most is that someone will say, I don't really know what it is. I don't know what it is, but there is something.
Hmm.
And so, and if it's whether or not they're just having a hard time in relationships, or if they're just having a hard time receiving, or if they feel like they have this feeling of control or they have this fear, what is that and where is it coming from and why?
Hmm.
And a lot of times what I find is, well, we'll take this for example. I did work with somebody who was in a relationship, and she came to me and she knew exactly what it was. She knew exactly what it was
Wow.
that was the issue, and she said it's just control. And I don't know where that's coming from. And so we went back to see, if it was a past life thing or if it was just a childhood thing or what was happening. And what we found was that, well, when we went through this whole thing, it went back to a past life, but it was something that happened and repeated in this lifetime.
Usually, that's a common thing that happens to people. They get
Yeah.
rewounded so that they will work from a past life. They get that same wound back so that they will, in fact, work on it this lifetime. So,
But she didn't realize it, and she didn't know that there was a correlation until we actually did the
mhm,
work together.
beautiful. So,
And-
what was the transformation look like when you work with a client? What before and after?
Well, before they're just going to not know sort of what's going on. I don't
Mhm.
understand. It can't possibly be me. It has to be the other person. I can't understand why this keeps happening. It's a lot of repeating patterns, repeating behavior. I don't understand. I don't see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then that's sort of where I come in and say, well, this is what's really going on, and this is what's happening underneath. And then afterwards, they have that clarity. They have the ability to say, okay, see, I understand it now.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
also, then after we do the other work, it's sort of like it's not so much I'm not doing it anymore, because sometimes this integration work takes a long time to process within the
Right,
body, because
right, right, right.
it's sort of hard to transfer from living in the mind to living in the body, because we're so used to it. Again, there's another
I
pattern there,
know. I know.
you know.
Absolutely. Well, what
Does that
I was
answer?
wondering is my phone was chirping, so I had to turn it off. And right in the middle of the show, it's like bing, bing, bing. I thought I silenced you. Anyway, apologies. I find that people are, and even me, there's different cluelessness that you just know something's happening. Something dynamically is always repeating itself, and darned if you can figure it out. We've done everything you can to not have it repeat itself, and sometimes I find that those things need to be addressed from a positive point of view is you're a people pleaser and you keep picking people who will never be happy. And so what's that? And so you're like kind of like, well, maybe you do want to work with that energy of I need to stop pleasing people. I need to pick people who want to please me or something like that. But and then sometimes it's just like the control when you're talking about controlling um when you're controlling a relationship or somebody is controlling you in a relationship so that they can feel safe or for whatever reason people control. Men have their own reasons and women have their own reasons. Sometimes I feel like it could be gender specific, but what happens uh let's just go with controlling. What happens to the energetic dynamics between two people who are trying to control each other? Can they love each other?
Yeah, I would say that whether it's they're controlling each other or they're just trying to control everything else. Sometimes when we could try to stop controlling in one area of life, it pops up in another area of life, or if we're just using this as an example.
Mhm.
Um, so then what does that mean? And what does that mean? But the reality is that when we're in a relationship, it's a mirror for us, for ourselves. So we need to
Oh,
look at it like, okay,
yeah.
well, what does this mean about me? That
Okay.
person's behavior mean about me, as well as my behavior mean about them.
Okay.
So basically, most of the time it's our reactions to that, and then it's okay, so then what is that showing me?
Okay. So you'll work with somebody coming in and enough complaining about him or enough complaining about her. Let's talk about you. And you'll be like,
Yeah,
how, I was
exactly.
just showing you about yourself.
Exactly,
Yeah.
100%. And most of the time I'll be able to just, if they just tell me what's going on, I can say, well, this is where, and this is what's happening. So that
Okay.
it's not just the intuitive portion of it, but it's also the analytical part of it. There's the part where I say, well, you know, maybe we need to look at it from a different
Mhm,
perspective. There's
mhm,
that portion of it as well, just to gain that
yeah.
clarity
Yeah.
on what's really going on. Because when the frustration builds, or when the anger builds, that's when nothing productive happens.
Exactly. Um, Yeah, heavy emotions, explosive emotions, fear, anger, anxiety. They keep you from being in the present moment and really exchanging. What are some of the receiving? Let's go back to the energetics of receiving love. What would you say? I'm in a relationship. I'm making this up. I'm in a relationship and I don't feel loved at all. No matter what I do, he doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and therefore I don't feel loved. What would you look at so that they could actually open up their hearts and
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first I would have to I would want to understand and ask more questions about what that
Mhm.
looks like for them and what that really means and what does not feeling loved or what does feeling loved mean for you? What does that look like for you? Because while there might be some kind of difference in what he believes and what you believe, it's not really about that. What it really is about is what is it that I need that I'm not getting from that other person? That really the reality is, what is it that I'm not giving to myself?
Right.
What is it that I am quote unquote missing, when really it's not missing. It's really just how do I fulfill that within myself first before I ask somebody else to fulfill it within me.
Yes, yes. Um, those deep needs seem to be they're your business. They're your business to take care. Your partner is there to love you up. So people love in different ways. I remember I have read it many times, the languages of love, five languages of love, or whatever they are.
Oh yeah.
But when I read that book, I realized for the first time is everyone has a different way of loving somebody and has a different way of how they want to be loved. And it never occurred to me that it could. I thought love was generic, and you just love someone, you know, you make them feel good, and they don't. Then I realized, oh, this person does care about me, but the way they show me is this way that I can't relate to at all. But I need to learn that that's the way that they love me. Does that make any sense? With
Energetic wise, yes,
yeah,
I think so. Because, you know, when we receive, while we've received in different ways, when we receive, it's
mhm.
more about what we can glean from the other person's trying, if that makes sense. So the other person is saying, well, this is how I show and how I want to receive. Because a lot of times what we do is we show the same way we want to receive.
Yes, I
So
see.
if we do acts of service, that's because we want to receive acts of service, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that
So
makes a lot of sense.
so basically if I mean that's how I am at least. So
Yeah.
you know, and I think also that if we if we see that within the other person, if we gain that perspective and say a higher perspective to say, well, maybe that's how they want to receive it, but that's not necessarily how
Yeah.
I receive it. But as far as the energy goes, it's gaining the perspective and being able to say and being open enough to say, okay, I appreciate this. I understand it. You know, because a lot of times what we do is even though we say, you know, we, we first move to I don't want that, or we first move to I don't get it or I don't like it, when the reality is we need the openness and the space
Yeah.
to be able to say I understand it.
Mhm.
I I get that that person wants that. That's the way that they are. So what can I show? What can I say or what can I do? Because that's the point in which we can articulate and say this is how I understand it, and not get to a place where we say, well, I don't like it, and it's not, and just sweep it under the rug and not say anything at all. We do need to get to a place where we can say, I understand it, I receive it, and I appreciate it. This is what I need moving forward, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So you're encouraging people to say, this is what I need. This is what makes me feel loved, or to say what you to express. Here's what fills my cup.
Yeah, absolutely. But first to have that openness to
Yeah,
be even able to have that higher perspective.
absolutely. And it takes stepping out of an insecure place to a secure place. And it seems to me a secure place is I've taken care of what I need to
Yeah,
nurture
absolutely. And
this.
I also believe that security is flow. It's flow,
Security is
it's
flow.
alignment.
Oh, explain that a little bit more.
So, um, if we come from an insecure place, we are not coming from, well, we'll just use me as an example.
Okay.
So on my own journey, I was in a place where I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of not understanding of what was happening inside of these relationships, not getting that I wasn't sort of getting what I needed, I guess you
Yeah.
could say, when I really needed to look within myself and to understand within myself what it was and where that energy wasn't flowing. And where that wasn't flowing was into the emotional center. It was blocked and stuck inside of that solar plexus. So meaning, well, I mean, this is just how I see it. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily it's not necessarily always about the chakras, but it is about energy within the body.
Okay.
So, but how I saw it was that I was always stuck there, and there was nothing flowing and continuing to flow within ourselves, the meridians, the way in which we are like attached to the earth, I guess you could say, is through
Yeah.
our own
Yeah.
energy. Um, the security wasn't there because there was no flow. there
Oh,
was there was something there that was blocking it, that was creating that anxiety. There was this backup that was creating the anxiety. Well, at least that's how I
yeah.
see it now from when I was
Yeah.
looking back on it then. At the time it just felt like overwhelm. It
Mm.
felt like fear. It felt like anxiety. It felt like if I let go, then what's going to happen? If I don't
Yes.
try to control it,
Yeah.
what's going to
What's
happen?
going to
I
happen?
don't know. Like the
It's
fear of uncertainty, the anxiety of moving, of
okay.
being able to like even be in a situation where the other person could be have my best interest or be
Okay.
able to, lead the relationship in the physical way.
Okay. That's interesting. It's really, really fascinating. So the flow, self-confidence comes from a flow of being of exchange within your own self, of being filled
That's
and
what I believe.
well-being. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to work with that concept of and I really
Yeah,
that's really getting my head thinking. Um, so what do you feel is the most common problem between people? And I don't mean to just stick to heterosexual couples. I mean
sure.
male to male, female to female, whatever you have that you're trying, could be parent to child, where you just you get in the way of loving each other. You get in the way of just she hates me or she never like it, and you they don't hate you, they love you. What's going on here? What's the most common problem?
I think the most common problem is that there's not this like connection of understanding. There's not this openness to say, because there's something, oh, well, I'm interpreting what they
Yeah,
say through my own identity, which is
yeah,
then therefore caught, it's sort of, uh, I'm trying to think of the word. Sorry. It's just sort of like,
it's okay.
I guess you could say, I don't want to say blocked because that's not really what it is, but but your own identity is, as a result of whatever those
Mhm.
experiences were. So if those experiences are what, because our identity is created from what we see on the outside and coming in and we're filtering it through what we've
Yeah,
already experienced because that's what we know. And we're always living in those patterns of what we
okay.
know. Our beliefs, our patterns, our,
Yeah. You had
all of those
mentioned
things.
that. That's your whole thing is your beliefs, the patterns, and you can kind of sense what they look like energetically or where you could feel them in somebody's bodies. But how the heck do you get people to, they're holding on to their beliefs? This is who I know myself to be. This is what I know to be true. What do you mean? That's not true. How do you,
Right. So we have to see that from a larger and higher perspective. We sort of have to retell
yeah,
the story.
yeah.
Because if we are able to retell the story and see it from a different perspective and understand it from the other person's point of view. I did work with somebody and we were looking at her relationship with her mother, and she wasn't understanding and seeing that and getting that where her mother was coming from and her own mother's, her things that happened to her in her life, or and not seeing that and
Mhm.
not understanding that, and then being able to, and then when we went into it we were able
Mhm.
to sort of retell the story, and she was able to see it from a different perspective. And being able to see things from a different perspective, not just what I say, but being able to actually get our minds on board with that and get our bodies on board with that, because there is a connection between the mind and the body. All of our emotions that are created within the mind we hold within the body. This is sort of like a known thing, but basically being able to, because those two are connected, we're able to retell that story. That story then creates a different feeling within our bodies.
Oh,
It
okay.
retells that story, and because of that, she was able to really see what her mother
Yeah.
was going through or had gone through, or her
Yeah.
feelings, and understanding
Okay.
what those feelings are.
Yeah.
Because if we don't understand and we don't gain that higher perspective of what that other person went through, or what I went through, and the reason why I'm filtering it the way I'm filtering it, if that makes sense.
So daughter grows up. Mom's never been happy. Mom always dislikes me. But mom has a whole nother story going on. And when the daughter realizes mom's story, um, she can start to see. all the
The
different ways
energy
your mom,
shifts,
the energy shifts, and then you can
not
see,
just within ourselves, but
yeah,
within the relationship.
look at how, look at all the ways mom loved me, even though she was agoraphobic and never left the house. But look, at my graduation, she left the house. Oh my God, she must really love me. So I'm just making that up, but
Yeah, yeah,
that, yeah,
totally.
but
Exactly.
that's how the way you're describing it, it sounds like you, once you have empathy, compassion, and understanding for the other person, which is knowing what their stories are. Um,
But not just in our minds,
yeah,
because that doesn't change what's the feeling.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's so many dynamics between people, obviously. So many belief systems, so much trauma, so much habits. This is how I do my life. This is my habit. Match my habit. And the other person says, I can't match your habit. It's you, dude. And um and that I see can create a wall between people instead of a bridge. Or they created a beautiful bridge, they fell in love, however they did that, and then they introduced their habits, and you need to live around this kind of thing. You've probably seen that hundreds of times in relationships. That you would go to look for that energetic pattern in the person and introduce a way for them to retell the story. But does retelling the story really change it, or is it there's something else that you continue
Well,
with it?
because it's simultaneously it's mindset as well as within the body, so it's embodiment work as well, because it's both at the same time, sort of like analysis and intuition.
Mhm.
Because it's both at the same time, it does that work, and then you can look
Okay.
back on it and say, this is what I used to believe. I remember I used to believe that,
Yeah.
and now I believe this over here, and I can feel it within myself.
Okay. So
But
you're
it also,
creating, okay, you're creating an experience with your clients that they can learn from.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's twofold. So it's, what I've learned as far as what I have a certification in, but also the things that I've done on my own, and the way that I do it is a little bit different. It's my own sort of, I guess you could say it's proprietary, but it's
Mm.
my own way of working with these people and working with the patterns and the emotions and the beliefs, and really being able to get the energy flowing again. So it's a matter of doing the mindset work, but doing the embodiment work. That's more of like I guess you could say it's somatic, but it's less somatic, and because it's both at the same
Hmm.
time.
Hmm. Oh, that's great. It sounds very powerful. It sounds, um, I love the idea of going into an experience with a clinician like you or somebody, and then I see myself go, oh, geez, is that what I've been doing all this time? I had no idea. And but also, there's so many times where you've been with a practitioner, whoever they are, whatever they may be amazing, and but you walk away with lots of really good ideas, but there's no embodiment because it's been a good idea. Let's talk about it. Let's go try it. And you're going, I'll go try it, but I still have the same story. So it sounds like what you do helps people to really take it in, do it. They can step away. I know how to do this. Does that sound like what
Yeah.
you do? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is, it's not necessarily the part of it that needs to be, if there's something that needs to be corrected in somebody's behavior, that's not what it is. It's what it is that it makes it the natural byproduct of what the work I do with people
Yeah.
is the behavior change. That's the
Okay.
natural byproduct. This isn't the goal.
Okay.
The goal is flow. That's the
Flow.
main
The
goal, and the
goal is
main
flow.
outcome of this is that
Okay.
we get to a place where those systems and those, because of those beliefs and those patterns, because of that systems are offline, I guess you could say. And so
Hmm.
we get that going again with this change work.
Okay.
That
Okay.
then therefore then the byproduct is the behavioral change.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I've been wondering about this for a good part of my life is why are people so mean to each other? And why, especially in relationships where you've established all of this uh, connection and intimacy, and then all of a sudden they're just really mean to the other person? What, what do you suppose that is all about?
Well, I mean, from like I guess you could say from like a psychological viewpoint, it has a lot to do with like triggering and wounding. Um, you know, and not understand and not and taking what somebody else is saying, like we're saying before, taking what somebody else is saying and filtering it through all of the wounding and the and not getting that what the person is saying isn't what they're saying, really what
Yeah.
or what's even really happening.
Hmm.
Um, and the only person that we can control is ourselves. We try to reach
Hmm.
out and we try to say, we try to be like, well, why can't you just be like this or why can't you just be like that?
Hmm.
Um, that's not the that's not the way in which we need to be able to communicate with each other. But I
Hmm.
also think it has a lot to do with if somebody says something and they have to reiterate it over and over again, or there's a lot of like holding on to things and keeping things in a certain under a certain under
Hmm.
the radar, I guess you could say, because you
Yeah.
might not even understand it yourself.
Right.
Might not even know what's going on within yourself.
I think that's true. Within yourself, or you may not know what's going on with the other person in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like a lot of times in relationships, it's a negotiation to a disaster. If if you had a bad mom and I had a bad dad, and we're going to we could really relate to each other, but don't ever do my bad mom triggers. Don't ever do my bad dad. So you're creating this map of here's how you're going to interact with me, and here's so that I feel safe. But the flow is stuck.
Right.
So
So it's less about trauma work and more about this energetic work
okay,
that it ends up being. A lot of times it's just, sometimes it only just takes this one thing to say, hey, this is what you missed. And they
yeah.
say, oh, I get it now. I understand it.
What do you think is
Sometimes
the
it's not
yeah,
necessarily a need to do all of the
yeah,
work.
yeah? What kinds of things do people miss? Um,
I would say a lot of times what people miss is that they want to be able to have this relationship, but then they say, but then the behavior is a different outcome. And I think what's missing there is even just saying, this is about me
mhm,
and putting me first. Because a lot of times what happens, at least with feminine energy, I've noticed, I mean, I mostly work with women, so, but I've noticed that there's a lot of not putting yourself first.
mhm,
And there's a lot of saying, this isn't where I want to go, but I also don't want to rock the boat.
right.
So there's a lot of what's being missed is putting yourself first and being able to say, this is what I truly want, rather than just
Mhm,
trying to piece together what somebody's giving you or what you think that you need. It's
yeah.
really getting down to the root of this is what I want and this is my true identity.
So what you truly want and what you're coming from your true identity is what's gonna change the dynamics. And the person says, "Oh, I didn't know that's who you are, what you wanted. I'm out." Or they'll say, "Oh, no, it's clear for me. Now I."
Right. I mean, the second that you get clarity for yourself, you're able to say, this is why I'm clear now.
Yeah.
While that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change how you speak or or what's happening immediately. It will eventually get you to the place where you can say, here's what I truly want and be able to have that conversation rather than just having because what's happening is the feminine energy is the spiritual and emotional leader. So the second that you're able to be that secure and be that person who can say, this is what I want and I'm clear about what it is that I need emotionally,
Mm,
and I can be emotionally intelligent and I can have these conversations, the whole dynamic changes.
okay.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Boy, this is quite a puzzle, I would think. But I think you clarify it so well. How do you clear you coming in with somebody's bringing their puzzle to you, and it seems like you clear it up really quickly by looking at their energetics, where the flow is, where the connection or the disconnect is.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
I've always loved puzzles.
Intuition. Let's talk about intuition. Do you teach people to use their own intuition to stay on track with for themselves, or
Yeah, I mean, partially. I think a lot of it has to do with how can we put that back onto us, which has a lot to do with us being able to ask ourselves those
yeah,
questions.
yeah,
And that has a lot to do with really being in the
yeah,
moment and really being
yeah,
like listening to ourselves and hearing that, which is what intuition is just listening and hearing. I mean, it is to me hearing what it is that you need to know in that moment,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
um, rather than reacting,
Okay.
rather than, really asking yourself the question. This is what I tell all of my clients.
Yeah.
What you need to ask yourself that question. What is it that's really going on here? What do I need to know? Why
Okay.
am I so bothered by this?
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes the
Oh,
why surprises you, right? I mean, why am I so bothered by this? You think, well, let me look at that. Oh, I didn't realize.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's not I mean, it's sometimes it's an easy question and sometimes it's a hard question.
Well, what if,
And
yeah, go ahead. What I wanted to ask is, I guess what I'm been nagging at the back of my head is there are relationships that just aren't healthy. And so somebody's coming to you, the identified patient is coming to you, I'm lost in this, it's a big puzzle, I'm not sure, and why this is bothering me. And it comes to a point where I can't be with this person anymore. This is not the right fit for me. Do you see that happening with people
yeah,
or
absolutely. And I think that's their decision to make that. I'm not gonna tell
well,
you either way.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but if you want to move forward and you want to do something different next time, I certainly am willing to work with you on that. But there does come a place where it might not necessarily be the right thing because there is the leadership there. There's a question of what's happening. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of times
Yeah.
playing into somebody else's insecurities isn't going to work for you, or because then that might, that's just a never ending like
Yeah.
cycle of how can I change? How can I change? How can I change? When it's really not about that. It's not really about the other person changing either. But if you change and you say, if we were to work together and you wanted to stay in this relationship, because that's again not my decision to make, the change that you might want to make is within you. It doesn't have anything to do with the other person.
Mhm.
And then you can make the decision about movement forward.
Okay. Or yeah.
If that makes sense. So like
Yeah, that makes a
if I
lot of
say to
sense. Yeah.
myself,
See,
what is it that I want to change within me? Because maybe I won't, the person won't even be there anymore if I do this work.
a lot of people won't do inner work. They won't move forward. They won't make the changes because they think or they feel and they're probably, and through all their whole gut, if I do this, she's gonna go. And I don't want to lose that person. So I'm making this conscious effort to stay in this zone, stay in this place. But now I have an ulcer. And now I'm not feeling good, and I doubt everything that I do. So the fallout is there. Um, or and that's the way it is. So that's tricky when a person has decided to stay in a unhealthy pattern. Or yeah, right?
Right. And sometimes we do because it's just what we know.
Yeah, it's true. It's just what you know. My mom and dad were always like this, so I picked somebody just like mom and dad. They're always like this, and
And we
I
might
don't
not
really
know
know.
what we might not know that we did that. I mean, it's an
Mm,
unconscious, like the
yeah.
picking part of it is totally unconscious.
That's frustrating. I wish it was a little more conscious. um, yeah, I've seen lots of people stay with, say, for instance, an active alcoholic, and they love that person to death. But when they're sober, it's the person they love. But when they're actively drinking, we don't know who that person is, and that has got to be a lot of blockage for the person who's hanging in there with the active alcoholic. Have you ever looked at that? Worked with
Yeah,
that?
I think so. I think also, just in my opinion, I don't know if this is anybody else's opinion, but my opinion is that a lot of times when we we have coping mechanisms that aren't necessarily the best for those of us around us.
Yeah. Right.
Um, it's not necessarily about the coping mechanism itself. It's about what's underneath that.
Okay.
And whether that person is the right person, it's hard to know because who you don't know that person.
Right.
So, I mean, you might think that you do, but there's something about them that's not fully aware. They aren't even fully aware. So, if it comes back to ourselves, we still have to say, and we still have to ask ourselves, is this what's in my best interest?
Mm.
Is this what's best for me? Am I really putting myself first? Despite the fact that I really love this person, am I putting myself first?
And that's important to put yourself first.
Well, I think so. And also,
I'm
if you
asking
get
for
to,
all the women out there. Is it really important to put yourself up
oh,
first?
yeah, I mean, and I also think that if you do that and you create this way in which you have a better relationship with yourself,
Hmm.
it does mean better relationships going forward. Whether this relationship can change or not, I mean,
Hmm.
it's possible that they might not stay. It's possible that they might leave, but you have to realize and ask yourself, isn't that what's best for me?
Hmm. Hmm.
But again, this is about you and relationships moving forward. This is not really necessarily about where you are in your relationship now. Um, while it can be helpful, it's really only about you and your own security and your own flow and your own ability to move yourself forward because
Right.
we are the only ones that we can control.
Boy, we
There,
should tattoo that across everybody's forehead. We're the only one that you can
I know I'm not the only one who says that. I know that's out there and that's a lot of people
control.
who say
Yeah.
that, but I do think that, you know, if we can get to a place where we feel secure and we can see and we can understand the perspectives from
Mhm.
around us, it changes the dynamics
So
of
dynamic.
who we relate to, why we relate to them, and what's really going on with them.
Okay. Perfect. It's beautiful. All these are really amazing things. What would you like to leave people with? I mean, to really kind of put their head around what you're talking about. What would you like?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I say this all the time, and I've heard it before, but it's something that I've always said is, um, it's not our fault. It's not, there's nobody to blame, but it is our responsibility to clean it up.
I love that. It's not our fault. There's nobody to blame, but it's our responsibility to clean it up. I like that. I don't like it, and I like it. Can somebody else clean it up for me? But we're the only ones that can do that, can do it. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
But we have to make the conscious decision to do
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that I can do to move myself forward so that this is something that I really want? If this is something you really want, what can you do to move it forward so that it's different in the future?
Right. Absolutely. And that's, yeah, I'm hearing you. And that takes courage.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, it
yeah.
does it really takes a lot of courage. And
And it's not easy.
and I think it takes a lot of courage to do the work that you're doing as well. Um, get in front of people and say, "Did you ever think of it this way?" Or not, and help people reveal truths to themselves so that they can move through the block. And I have to give you my hat is off to you doing this so much this work with people. I do want to remind people of you could reach Adriane at Adriane Magnuson at gmail.com. It's a D in there. And then also go to any social media platform and at Adriane.Jude, you'll find her. You could send her a message and say, hey, I listened to you on the podcast and I'd like to know more about what you're up to, what you're doing. And I bet you'll get back to him right away.
Absolutely.
So
And I can answer any questions or anything you have about the work or
oh, beautiful.
people I've worked with in the past, things like that.
I love that. I love that. Um, and I'm sure you've seen plenty of people change their lives by doing this work into happier lives,
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
see
And to
people growing in
understand
that.
themselves in a broader perspective.
Yeah, that's just beautiful. Thank you for learning to do this work.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So I'm just closed now, and I think I'm gonna have to call you later for let's just a session here. But I want to invite all of my listeners to reach out to Adriane, and know that this is another part of taking care of yourself. You do matter. You do need to put yourself first, whether you're a man or a woman, to understand how you love and how you work with people. And that's part of soul power living. And every guest that I bring on is to help you find another step towards your powerful self so that you could live your powerful life. So for now, stay safe, stay brave. Um, and like and subscribe my podcast when you're listening to it, and do reach out to Adriane. If you have any trouble reaching out to Adriane, reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected as well. And you know, I'm Nancy at angelscapes.net. That's my email address, and you can also reach out to me, Nancy of Angelscapes, on any social platform as well. And you can look me up at my angelscapes.net website. They all kind of go together. But Adriane is a wonderful resource, and please check her out. So thank you. So for now, go in grace, go in peace, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Are you feeling a disconnect in your life? I see it's time to make a direct connection to find your soul's power and wisdom. Join Nancy Smith to learn tools and steps you can take to create calm and confidence in your life. Plug into your soul's power to be the powerful